Well, here we are again on the Uptick podcast. And today we've got Greg and Lauren with us, who require no intro, but I would appreciate if you'd introduce yourselves.
So I'm Lauren from Cento. Been working for Cento for 8 years now, specialising in recruiting for the fire and security industry. Obviously, Kyle's my best and biggest hire I've ever done. Was one of the first Uptick hires in the UK. So, yeah, that's my claim to fame. And if that's how I end my career, then great. But, yeah, so specialising in recruiting for the fire and security industry.
Bro, well, thanks for coming. And obviously, if you'd never hired Kyle, then I wouldn't even be here to do this podcast.
All down to me.
Yeah, well done to that.
Yeah. And you, Greg?
So I'm Greg Linehan, Director of Fisk Group. Been with the company 15 or so years. But, yeah. Looking forward to this podcast today.
Yeah, nice. Everyone's seen your face, mate. I've interviewed you before.
I know, I think.
Yeah, so we're expecting like an even better performance this time. Like,
no pressure then.
Yeah. Probably still recovering from Sunday from Newcastle.
Yeah, I am. Yeah, indeed. Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
congrats.
been good.
So we're here to talk about hiring in the fire and security sector, something that you two know a lot about. How are you finding the market right now, Lauren? You know, what's the sort of general trends that you're seeing?
So the market as a whole, it's tightened up a lot, as I think everybody probably knows. There's a massive talent shortage, especially if you look at sort of engineering level. This year seems to be lightening up a little bit from what we've seen, which is really positive signs. But yeah, if you look at engineers as a whole, the market's really, really tight. It's very competitive. A lot of the good engineers have gone subcontracting, which I think is quite clear to see for everybody, which means that the permanent engineers are even harder to find and harder to keep. Yeah, that's probably the trends I'm seeing. I'm not sure about
Totally agree. I think the pool talents, there's not a lot out there, to be fair, at the minute. Like I say, I think change from COVID times, a lot of engineers gone out and started on their own now, gone self-employed, working for different companies. It's tough. Like we find definitely recruiting now is tougher than it's ever been. Some months are easy than others. You get a lot of CVs sent to you and people contact you direct, and then other months you won't have not one single CV get sent to you. Yeah, I definitely agree.
Yeah, and it seems to have been like that for quite a long time. And it's our job as actors in the sector to make it easier for everyone. But I always find it interesting to hear how it differs in different regions in the UK. Lauren, you probably got a good idea as somebody who recruits across, the entire of the UK.
Yeah, I mean, in reality, it doesn't. Hotspots, obviously, your big cities, so London, Manchester. But in reality, there tends to be more candidates in those areas, so there's no real difference region to region. It's hard everywhere, and that's it. It's even hard to find people in Wales, Scotland, Cornwall, wherever. It's just difficult across the board.
And do you find in recent times it's more difficult as a recruiter to relocate people? Do people have more demands in terms of maybe working from home or perhaps staying in opportunities that are closer to home?
Yeah, I think people's what they want from a job has changed, definitely. Work-life balance is massively important to people. If you're looking at people off the tools especially, people very, very rarely relocate for jobs, ever, in my experience. Unless you're looking at sort of director level, people wouldn't relocate for, I don't know, a sales job or even like a service manager's job or anything like that. People wouldn't relocate for it. It's quite an upheaval to move a family. And especially for an engineering role, nobody would relocate. So that's not something we see very common at all.
And I guess, Greg, that's something where you guys at Fisk will benefit from investing in apprenticeships, looking into like local talent and things like that, I would imagine.
Yeah, in Lighthouse, we've got a lot of apprentices, as per previous podcasts with David and James. We invest heavily in the apprentices, we train them, we even take apprentices on and we try and upskill them. Happened just a little while ago, we just took on an engineer, worked for a national company. He's only done one discipline, which is fire extinguishers, but he wanted skilling. So we basically started putting him on courses, more training program. And he's already come to me last week and said, "You're already delivering what you promised in the interview stage," which is great. It's just keeping that training, continuous professional development throughout his working life with Fisk, if you like. Not just him, or other engineers, all the way from office staff, really, managers, supervisors. Just retaining the staff is key as well.
And that's what we see massively. one of the main reasons that people look to leave a role is because they've been over-promised and under-delivered at interview. They've been told they're going to be put through X, Y, and Z. 6 months, 9 months in, people are impatient nowadays. They're not seeing the fruit from that, and that's when they look to move again. People might see it as jumpy on a candidate CV, but if they're promised something in interview stage and it's not been delivered, they're going to look for something else because there's so many opportunities out there, and candidates are so wise to that now.
No, you are right there. Obviously, we've done a hell of a lot of interviews this year with different sectors of our business, and they're all saying the same thing. I said, how come you've had a bit of a jump in your CV?
Yeah.
I was promised this. I was promised local work.
Yeah.
I'm driving all over the country, for instance.
Yeah.
I'm not getting travel pay.
Yeah.
I was promised door to door. I'm not getting that.
Yeah.
They're questioning my overtime. It's not the job they said it was.
Yeah.
Is it static role now mobile? And it's just like I say, they're looking because I say work-home life balance now for an engineer is important. Different from when I first started at 16. You just went where the work was. You just got on the train with a tool bag over your back. You just went there. You had to go to get the job done. Now they're like, I want to just do this sort of element of work, or don't want to go on the building site, or don't want to go outside the M25 or within the M25. I only want to do maintenance or small works. They only want to do fire extinguishers or just fire alarm. They don't want to be multi-skilled as well, which they can be pick and choosy. And in a minute, it's an engineer's market, really.
Absolutely. And I think engineers have got so wise to the fact that they are taking the lead on most things, that they can be very demanding when they're asking for what they want out of roles. And it's up to businesses to be able to provide that, but then there's also a limit. And that's where I think we're seeing a little bit of disparity in the market at the moment, because companies expect one thing, engineers expect another, and they're not on the same level, unfortunately.
Yeah. So it's a candidate-led market, essentially,
100%.
at the moment. Yeah. So you touched on there being issues with broken promises. We see that all the time. That's across all industries.
Yeah.
And that you've both got a good perspective of this, I would imagine. Yeah. What are some other mistakes that employers would make if they're looking at, bringing in the best talent and retaining it? Where are they falling short?
So we joke about it in the office, but my favourite thing is when somebody posts on LinkedIn, Facebook, "We're looking for engineers. Anybody want to move? DM me." Why?
Yeah. Why would you say that? Why would you say that that's perhaps not a good manner of going about it then?
So from a candidate's perspective, what would make you want to apply for that job? Nothing. There's no information about the role. There's no information about what the benefits are for working for that business, or why they would want to go and work for that particular company. There's so many roles out there, and it's not many people are looking. It's a very passive market. So you have to be able to really catch someone's eye to make them want to move.
Right.
So if you just put a post out saying, "We're hiring, DM me." Or my favourite ones are when people say things like, "If you're interested, email me, and if we're interested, we'll come back to you." It's like, that's not very... Yeah.
So on that advert, would you expect something like salary put on there, or travel time, or some of the benefits? People go, these are the benefits, but really they're the benefits you get anyway.
Yeah,
your holiday, your company vehicle, you need a company vehicle.
A chair at your desk.
Your laptop, for work phone, but you need this to do your daily tasks. They're not really benefits, are they?
No. So I think for me, there's something called an EVP, which is an employer value proposition. Some companies do it really, really well, and that's something that happens sort of in the background without you actually trying to achieve it. Uptick do it really well because of their social media and their branding. They're a company that people would see on social media, whether that be LinkedIn, Facebook, whatever, and they're like, they look cool. They look like they're having...
We're not cool.
Well, exactly. I know that, but you look it from the outside.
I would say I agree. To be fair, it looks fun to work in that office.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? What I like about Uptick, they're pleased for each other. Like you get a new company on board today, everyone's really pleased for you to do that, and you'll be the same vice versa to someone else, and you'll promote each other up. And I like the progression you guys have from the start to the bottom. Do you know what I mean? Work your way up through the ranks as well. Obviously, Fisk are the same. James is a prime example, from his apprentice now all the way through to supervisor, contracts manager, all the way through to director level.
But do you shout about that on social media? Does anybody know that apart from you?
Me personally, I'm not very good at anything like that. I don't like giving away what contracts we've got. Like, I'm not really a sharply sort of person. I'm not like that in my personal life, so I'm not really like that in the business. But we've got other people in the business who are and can do that better. That's
But-
where their skills lie
Yeah.
better than mine.
Yeah, I think telling those success stories are really important because somebody from the outside looking in, everybody's got a smartphone nowadays. They'll research your company, they'll look on your social media pages, and if they see a success story like that, or like the engineer that you just mentioned that has come in and within however long has been put on X, Y, and Z training courses, they think, I'd like a bit of that.
Yeah.
Why don't I have a chat with him? And it makes all the difference.
Yeah.
It stands people out.
Another success you measure it in like, they got married, they've got kids now. You've seen them grow up from that apprentice
Yeah.
to like a man, house. They might relocate. Like I say, we've got engineer now. Worked with us before. Same time as James started with the business. With his skills from what we've taught him over the years, taking that to Australia and Melbourne with
Wow.
Uptick. Now
Love
works for a
it.
company in Melbourne, posting it. Fantastic. It's like his life now is fantastic. He's a swimming pool in the back garden. I like all that. You know, that success story, like someone doing well for themselves. You don't like. Oh, I love seeing all that. Really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It makes things tangible
Yeah.
for people.
Yeah.
And it's relatable.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
And developing a really strong employer value proposition is so important to get the right talent into the business and retaining it as well.
Changing, I'm saying, the engineers want a bit of praise as well.
Yeah.
They love a bit. They want a bit of the bit of love.
Yeah, of
I'm
course.
not saying put your arm around and micromanage and stuff like that, but they want to be thanked for doing their
Yeah.
great job. Bit of feedback from the customer. Listen, you've had a compliment today. Well done, keep it up. Gives them an extra spring in
Yeah.
their step, doesn't it? Wants
Yeah.
them to stay there. And I know obviously money's a big thing and other benefits.
Yeah.
But sometimes just a thank you sometimes goes a long way, I think. With,
Absolutely.
that's what I used to like when I was
Yeah,
younger.
or
anyway.
an early shoot to go to sports day or to pick kids up from school or something like that. It goes a really long way.
Yeah, like I say, dropping, say exactly the same thing, dropping kids off.
Yeah.
My little one's not well today, can I work from home? It's just,
Yeah.
it's a new way of modern working now. Not just engineers, office staff as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Across the board, really.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you think that technology plays a part in, first of all, when you're in a hiring process, does that play a part? Do you ever talk about perhaps what technology and tools an engineer might have as an incumbent in that role? Or, also retaining staff, how important is technology to ensure that young engineers want to stick around?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we use a lot of technology from a recruitment perspective.
Right.
So obviously the normal ones that everyone knows about, but then AI tools in the background, and constantly speaking to people, marketing, speaking to candidates, obviously constantly asking the question about people if they're up for a move and whatever else. But then on the flip side, when we're speaking to people, talking about technology and talking about the different technologies and processes that companies are taking makes people want to join them. What kit they're working on, if they're going to be working on really good kit, what software they use, what back office software they use. All of it makes a massive difference. People want to be working with the best in the market, and you see more and more of that nowadays. People don't just want to be working on your basic stuff, they want to be working on the good stuff with the best businesses.
Yeah, exactly. And then when in interviews now, some guys, they ask, what's your software you use? What's your CRM system? We say Uptick, I've heard of that. Used that before. We've got an engineer come from another company, used Uptick before. She's like,
Nice.
it's an easy transition that, So,
Yeah.
that's definitely that. They ask that, so what panels do you work on?
Yeah.
They're comfortable with it. They want to be comfortable. You don't want to throw them in a deep end, set them up to fail. You want to make sure Fisk or whatever company is fit for that engineer.
Yeah,
It's the right fit.
For sure.
definitely.
And also, recruitment companies and installers and service providers like yourselves, you've got responsibilities of pushing the industry forward and ensuring that young people are empowered to be successful and contribute to the sector. But from a more sort of higher actor perspective, do you think that the government is doing enough to help young engineers come through? And then secondly, how important are businesses like David's Skills for Security in ensuring that the new generation are empowered to be successful in this industry?
Yeah, I mean, Skills is massively playing a big input into it. We partner with Skills, we work really closely with them. We get a lot of people approach us and say, look, I want to get into the industry. I can't help them. Obviously, people have to pay for my services and they're not going to pay for me to put a trainee that might or might not work out. So we always put them in front of people like Skills.
Nice.
And their impact on the industry is already starting to make a difference. But all in all, there's not enough talent coming through. I think if you look at younger people now coming out of school, do they know about the fire and security industry? Probably not.
No.
Did I know about it before I joined Cento? Probably not. It's like recruitment. Nobody chooses it. You just fall into it.
Yeah.
And I think it's the same thing. So job fairs and really making the industry known, I think would go a long way, because it's exciting. It's always moving with the times.
Yeah.
There's a lot of technology. It's a good industry to be a part of, but I don't think young people really see that side of it. I mean, fire alarms, CCTV cameras, they're not.
Might not be seen as cool.
No, we say it's not sexy, but it's compliant. But
Yeah.
if you actually look at some of the software, it's actually pretty cutting edge and actually quite interesting to work on, but nobody knows that side of it.
That's really important that messaging goes out early, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you think, Greg?
Skill security. We've been partnering with them now since 2018. We've had at least 15 apprentices go through the either they're still there now or completed the course since that time, and it's been a massive benefit for our business. With the skills shortages out there, it's made us grow. But obviously, we've got a limit of how many apprentices we can take on, because you need the skilled engineers around you to teach those engineers.
Yeah.
So also, you can go to a college on a block once every 6 weeks for a week and learn on a board and learn in a classroom. But the hands-on, site-to-site works and different type of systems with different type of engineers, that experience, we need those guys there to teach those youngsters, the next generation, if you like, to come through.
I mean, they always say that you never really start learning until you finish your apprenticeship.
Exactly, yeah.
Because you're thrown into different scenarios that you've then got to deal with. You haven't got a choice. You've got to figure out how to fix something or how to make something work. And you can't be falsely put into those situations very often or very easily.
No, for sure. Obviously, recruiters are very necessary in every industry. And in an ideal world, people wouldn't need to use recruiters because they'd be able to just, bring in people organically. So, but what I would say in an industry like this that is pretty candidate-led, a question for both of you. First of all, for you, Lauren, what would your biggest advice be to a fire and security business that is looking to engage with a recruiter? And then I was going to ask to you, Greg, what would your advice be to a fire and security business that's looking to hire the best talent? So yeah, if you go first, Lauren.
It's all about partnership.
Yeah.
It's about understanding a business's needs. No two businesses are the same. You've got to really understand what they're looking for and what they want to achieve as a business unit to help them grow and to provide them with the right talent.
Yeah.
It's a quality over quantity approach that I think is important. There's a lot of recruiters out there, and I'm not going to say all of them are bad or all of them are good or whatever, but there's a massive there's a massive difference between every single one.
Yeah.
Some will just send CVs out and hope one of them catches, or some will try and partner with particular businesses and help them grow the business that way. And they're the ones that work. There are successful relationships through partnerships.
Yeah.
Because it might be the candidate on paper doesn't look right, but you pop a call into somebody that you've built a relationship with and say, look, on paper this person isn't what you want, but I've spoken to them and they've got something about them. And actually, I think if you've thought this, this and this, and they're the best things that when something like that works, that you've seen real successes, for sure.
Yeah.
It's interesting to say about the partnership and relationships. It is difficult for like a company like a contractor like us is to engage with a recruitment agency because the talent pool's so small. It's very competitive. So you might Cento might be competing with 3 other recruitment companies for the same engineer, and we're trying to. I mean, we're there, and then we're up against say maybe 10 to 20 companies for that one engineer. Because when you see a CV come through, you look at his engineer, and go, that's going to be a right fit for us. Even us and even interview him, like ticks all the boxes what we sort of want.
Yeah.
I know it's different face-to-face interviews or a Teams interview, but it's building up that relationship. Lauren might not put someone forward to us that she doesn't think is the right fit for us. I say back in the initial stage of engaging with a Cento, for instance, you got to work up what's your need, what can you do, what bit of history of the business, what direction we're going in, what sort of work we've got, whereabouts it is, what other continued professional development we're going to offer this candidate, salary is important.
Yeah.
It's like, say, build up relationships. Lauren might go, no, this engineer is really good, but it's not fit for Fisk. It could be fit for company number A or whatever, It's like, they've got to be, but they're in a tough, it seems like there's a lot of, when you're recruiting someone, it's like, seems very quick, it's like panicky, especially with us, I think. We really desperately need an engineer.
Yeah.
But we haven't got a lot of time to take this person on because they might be snapped up by another 5 firms. Sometimes like an
Yeah.
auction or bidding war. Sometimes we've got a bidding war in the past for some engineers.
Yeah.
We lost it, unfortunately, because we stepped away because it's difficult.
Probably a
Yeah.
blessing in disguise, to be honest.
Yeah,
like,
I think the thing is that candidates that are, I use the word on the market,
Yeah.
aren't necessarily the candidates that you want, because normally a reason somebody's looking.
Yeah.
Candidates that are in the market, so they've got a job and they're only looking for specifics, so it's for training opportunities or progression or whatever that might be, they're the candidates you want to speak to. And typically they won't be speaking to multiple different companies because they're only looking for a specific opportunity, if that makes sense. And that's where that partnership element comes in, because you know which. So the thing is about recruitment is everybody thinks that, well, some companies do act like that, but in terms of what we do, we speak to candidates all the time and we're nurturing relationships. And I might speak to a candidate that says, do you know what, if you ever got a job that's based here that does this, that works on those sorts of contracts, I'd be really interested to hear. And at that stage, I haven't got that.
Yeah.
But 3 months down the line, somebody calls me and says, well, actually, I've got this role that's coming about with this, this, and this. I think, I know that person. You get on the phone to them and that's it. And you match the two together. And that's how it should work. Not fastest finger first and flinging a CV in and seeing what happens.
So when engineers come to you, someone like yourself, I'm looking for a new role.
Yeah.
What are they? Do you ask them the question of like, why are you looking for a new role? What is the common? Is it I want more money, or is it I want more training, or is it what are they asking for? Because obviously, when I ask the question to when someone does an interview, comes to the interview, like, why are you looking to move? I was promised X amount of more money after I've done this course or whatever. I was promised extra £3,000 a year, for instance.
Yeah.
I haven't got that. I've kept asking every month. They've not come back to me.
Yeah.
Or I've wanted this bit of training, not come back to me. Or I was promised a promotion from an engineer to a contract supervisor. I lost out on it. They got someone else in internally rather than hiring internally.
Yeah.
But most of it is like, just the lack of training. We see that sometimes the CVs look really good. The history, they might have 20 years experience, but they ain't done a lot of courses or, you know what I mean? They haven't got that behind them.
Yeah.
The FIA or the Zeus, they haven't had the training for years.
No.
Yeah.
So the standards change all the time, and it's just like they haven't kept up with their training. It happens a lot. We haven't had no training for 5 years.
Yeah.
Not even like specialist awareness, the basic stuff, specialist awareness, or the ECS card hasn't been up to date, or the iPath working at height, or building the tower, the plasma, it's not there.
No.
But the manual handling, even just lifting something off the floor, they haven't had the training.
Yeah. Because I think people are so busy in their day-to-day work, they haven't got time to release the people to go and do the training. But that's the catch-22, because you're so right. The majority of the time that people are looking, it's down to lack of training and lack of opportunity. Money does come into play. Yeah, absolutely, money comes into play with it. But it's not the be-all and end-all. I think you see a lot of things, especially on social media, when people say, X job, paying this amount. It's not necessarily true. I'll take it all with a pinch of salt, because salaries, as much as people think they haven't really changed that much in my perspective over the past sort of 4 years. Maybe a couple of grand, but not the disparity that you see. Engineers you'll speak to and say, well, I only moved for 50 basic.
Yeah.
What? That
happens a lot. Happens a lot.
And it doesn't exist. And I'll tell you, it doesn't exist.
Yeah, happens a lot. Especially in London, I mean, they want 50s basic. Just for doing the minimum. Yeah. With maybe 5 years experience. Yeah. Not even that sometimes. Yeah. And then they want everything on top of that, the travel time, door to door, the lot of holiday. Yeah. Everything. They want everything for literally. Yeah. The big bucks, really. It's the big bucks now.
But I think the good engineers, the ones that want to be invested in and want to be trained, and the loyal ones, they're not as money motivated. They just want to go out and do a good day's work. Yeah. And they know that if they do a good day's work, because of the travel time and the overtime and the call out and whatever else, they'll still take home a decent wage.
Yeah, they will.
I think that's why it's important, though, from both sides. Like, pre-existing inhibitions about working with recruiters would be a reason why if a company needed an engineer, they might think last minute, all right, I'll go and tell them 3 recruiters, actually, I do need someone. Yeah. So you get the low-hanging fruit, because you'll come through, you haven't got a relationship with that company. Yeah. The company hasn't given you the time to tell you about the profile of the company or what the sell factor is to get them in. Yeah. So you just get probably the same CV from all 3, or you'll get a load of low-hanging fruit CVs of people that don't really want to move. Yeah. And then those existing inhibitions just prolong even further, and you won't want to work with recruitment firms. So it's like, ideally, obviously, you're going to go in-house. That's the best way to do it. Yeah. Some companies wouldn't have the benefit benefit of a large talent pool that perhaps Essex is good for. Do you know what I mean? People coming out of college who want to do it. So yeah, it's always interesting to see how people view it. I've been on both sides. I've worked as a recruiter, and now I work with companies like yourselves who do a really good job on apprenticeships, but not everybody has the same thing.
No.
What do you think engineers can do better to land the better roles, do you think, in this market at the moment?
That's a really good question.
Yeah, that is a
Thank
good
you very much. Yeah. It's not even on the notes. That
is a good question. That's right.
That is a good question. I think...
Too good a question, was it?
Yeah, no, it was. That stumped me a little bit. No, it's not.
Right.
No, I think they need to be clear in their intentions. When engaging with a recruiter or a business or whatever, saying they're looking for opportunity, they need to be clear with what they're looking for and probably lay their cards out on the table fairly early.
Yeah.
And say, this, and this. And then everybody knows where they stand. Everybody knows the parameters they're working to. Because otherwise you find yourself in a situation where it gets to offer and there's again a disparity between what's been offered and what actually the candidate wants that wasn't discussed at early stages. I think that's probably what I would advise if people are wanting to get the roles they're looking for.
For sure, just be frank.
Just be
with what you need to move.
Just be honest.
Some engineers are honest with us when we go, I'm looking to see what's out there because I think I'm worth this amount of money, but my boss is not paying me this. Yeah. But if you offer me X amount of money, I'm going to go back to them to see if they get more money. And it sometimes happens. Yeah. Because obviously companies don't want to lose their staff, they retain them, so they panic, but they're sort of like, they're doing it because they don't want to lose something, but they really should be giving that salary over because they're worth that salary. Yeah. Not because they now got forced into giving them that salary.
100%.
Yeah. So they might be on 35, you get an extra 5k a year now just because you've had an interview with another company because you're looking. So, they get all panicky. Does that happen a lot?
It does happen a lot. So here's a question. Due to the change in national insurance, do you think that counter offers are going to decrease?
I think they probably stay the same. I think because it's because it's a good engineers market. It's an engineers market. They can sometimes they set the mark where they're at. Obviously, you can see the salary differences. You guys put up a salary like a thing last year on social media, didn't you?
Yeah.
The salary in different areas, London, South East, North
Bandings.
England, you know, the benefits as well. So we meet a lot of those.
Yeah. So we see, and the trends that we are predicting for this year is that we'll see a decrease in counter offers due to that, because a couple of grand on salary now isn't just a couple of grand on salary. It's going to be what, $5,000? Yeah, which is a lot of money.
Yeah, it is a lot of money. And if you've got size we are, we've got 50. If you have 50 of those, $5,000 is a lot of money, a lot of impact on the business.
Yeah.
But that's why, for the prosperity of the industry in general, you get into dangerous territory once everyone's just moving for money. Yeah. Because obviously the industry is ingrained in safety and compliance, and you sort of lose the essence of that when people are just sort of moving around for anything. Yeah. Which means it's so important to retain and pay your staff properly who you're bringing through, because how much easier is it to keep someone that you've trained rather than having to bring somebody in that's coming from the outside? You know?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think also that people can quite easily price themselves out of the market.
Yeah.
There's only so many counter offers you can get to take you to a certain salary, and then you can't move because no one else will pay what you're on.
Yeah.
And the factors that you're actually looking for aren't normally money, and they won't change. Yeah. And then you're still stuck.
Are there any problems or hiring problems that you anticipate being more pertinent in the next sort of year or so that have come up recently?
No, I think all in all it seems to be a positive outlook on the next few months for sure. There's a lot more confidence in the market post-election. People know where they are a little bit more, know where they stand a little bit more. Pre-election is always a bit difficult because you don't know what's going to happen. Yeah. But now people know what the next 4 years looks like. They can put plans in place and they know what their hiring strategies are. And candidates have got more confidence to make that move. So we predict it to ease up slightly. It's never going to be easy in a skill shortage market. It's never ever going to be easy, but we predict it to be easier than it has been, which is good news all round.
And Greg, do you have some people at Fisk training up at the moment, apprentices and that? Yeah,
we've got some apprentices, like I say, skills security through the years. So it's just starting now with the next couple of weeks in year 1, in year 2, in year 3. We've got apprentices now. We're not apprentices no more. They've qualified. With us for year 4 and 5, say now they want to go again the next level up. supervisory role, lead engineers.
Yeah.
So we've got that progression within the business. So there is that. Obviously, David mentioned earlier. There's another course after the skills and security apprenticeship for supervisory management courses. We didn't know that until this morning, so we will definitely look into that now. Keep upskilling your workforce, really.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
and you're doing a bigger job in it because it's wider. It's for everyone. Like they'll probably
definitely.
move on one day, and you've trained people up properly.
Yeah.
And then you're Alan Sugar, basically, aren't you? You're hired all these apprentices.
I say pretty much. I'm not.
I can't believe myself. So, do you think that there's a sort of a lack in specific training for multidiscipline engineers in the industry?
There's definitely a big shortage in multidiscipline engineers.
People don't want to multidiscipline anymore.
Yeah, and that's also true.
They want to specialise. They want to be fire or security, but that doesn't help them any maintenance contracts really, because they are normally multidiscipline, fire and security with single site.
What can I guess governing bodies or actors in the sector do better to help prevent that becoming more of an issue?
Well, let's say the training with some of these providers are multidiscipline, fire and security.
Yeah.
Before we got Nakers Gold, when the security division started, we was heavily on just the fire industry.
Yeah.
So our multi-skilled engineers, what I would call multi-skilled engineers, would have been fire alarm, emergency lighting, and fire extinguisher engineers. That would be the multi-skilled. But I don't think we have. We might have one, which is fire and security. Just a maintenance engineer, not an install, just maintenance only. But again, it's not massive sites; it's only small sites that we use that engineer for. Otherwise, it'd be purely either fire or security, not together.
Got you.
There is not many multi-skilled engineers out there now.
No. And I think in the UK, if you draw comparisons with other countries, the fire and security sectors are more linked. In a lot of other countries, it's not the same.
No.
So do you think we need to do better in perhaps combining those disciplines in training and education and things like that? Or do you think that they should remain separate, but people are just obliged to learn both different disciplines?
Yeah, I think when you speak to people, they are fire or security. That people have a passion for one or the other, and you can't change that. So it's difficult because there's a need for multidisciplines, and in an ideal world, everybody would be multidisciplined, so everybody could do everything. But you can't expect somebody to do something they're not wanting to do or don't have a passion for.
True.
The courses are out there. The training courses are all geared towards multidisciplined engineers, if I'm right in saying that. Yeah. But still, when people can be multidisciplined, they still take a lean to one or the other and like to focus on one or another.
Well, that's good for engineers. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, it's fine. I don't think you'll be able to change that in terms of making people do either or. And actually, it's probably good that you've got superstars, standouts in either discipline, rather than just a mediocre multidisciplined engineer, in my opinion, anyway.
Oh, yeah, especially in our business, Fisk, we've either got a standout fire guy or a standout security guy. They're not standout in both fields.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they're specialists in that fire or specialists in security, and they're really good at that.
Yeah.
And those guys I'm mentioning, that both managers within our business. So but they combine really well together. So then they can share the engineers. They might be on a project together, but work together to get a completed job, rather than one engineer or two engineers doing both disciplines on a job. Yeah. Sometimes, it's like on the site, it's very pressurised. They might be concentrating a lot of fire, but then they're falling behind on access control, doing the intrude alarm. But they've got to do that the walls are going up or ceilings are going up. So we try and keep that. In our business, we try and keep that as a split division, really.
Yeah.
But you're blessed as well, aren't you, to have groups of skilled teams who, in their disciplines, can be really successful. I guess from hearing from you both, it's a good advice for perhaps those engineers who do want to stick out. If people do want more money or they do want to, go to the best job and everybody's looking for the best people. Perhaps that is a good direction for some young engineers to go in and learn those disciplines early doors to make themselves stand out.
Yeah, and I always recommend for people that are starting their career to learn both, because then it opens so many more doors. Ultimately, down the line, they might want to specialise in one or the other or a single discipline. But when you're starting out, do both, because the world's your oyster. Then you can do what you like with your career. You can go in any direction.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that, and you'd be able to utilise Uptick as well as you can, because we obviously specify in those industries. So.
Good plug.
Yep.
And even if you specialise in fire now, there's so many different areas in the fire
Absolutely.
True.
sector they specialise in. I'm just a commission engineer.
Yeah.
I'm just an install engineer. I'm just a maintenance engineer. I'm just a call-out breakdown engineer.
So we've had this week, for the first time I've ever known, for 8 years, a candidate's approached and said, I just want to work on wireless systems, wireless fire alarm systems. And I've never had that before. So people are specialising or wanting to specialise even more. I mean, my comment was there's not going to be a role out there for you. There's not that many wireless fire alarm systems for you just to have that job yet. But maybe one day there will be. And that's where his passion lies, and that's what he wants to do.
Yeah. I guess as the industry grows, there's more space for more specialisation, but it depends on the way you look at it. We need a bit of everything, don't we?
Definitely.
So with, recent tragedies that particularly focus around the fire industry in the UK, have you seen pushback from security-focused engineers who perhaps wouldn't want to put their name, understandably, against a fire alarm system with, the potential shortcomings of that?
Yeah, I mean, for sure. People will bring up Grenfell and such like, in terms of they don't want to learn fire because it's life safety, and ultimately you're going to work and you're responsible for people's lives. And some people don't want to do that, and I completely respect people's decisions if that's the choice they want to make. But yeah, it's not massive. You don't see loads of people push back on it, but it's definitely, I've heard it a few times, yeah.
We've had a little bit of pushback over the years, just like, say, special security engineer, maybe doing a call out on a life safety system. Yeah. Don't really know what they're doing, but they're closest to the closest engineer to the job. We don't put pressure on them going, no, you need to sign it off. We always just go do attendance, show face, we can get it silenced, whatever. We can get a senior engineer over to assist you, help you that way, but we never make anyone sign a job off if they're not comfortable with it. It's just it's too much responsibility now. We've got enough skilled engineers that are more confident on systems. We don't want to set anyone up to fail. Don't want to make anyone do anything when they're not comfortable with doing. No. That's the main goal. And you don't want to push by doing. If you're making someone do something they don't want to do, they're not going to work for you. They don't want to work. They're going, I can't work for this company. Putting too much pressure on me to do this type of work. And I'm not comfortable with it. I did tell them at an interview. I've told them for years I can't do this. So we don't want to put no extra pressure on them.
No, and you do hear horror stories of people, and again, why people want to leave companies. They've been put in situations where they've been asked to put their signature or their name against systems that they've not completed or serviced or commissioned or whatever, and it needs to change.
It's also driven from like clients are putting pressure on us now. Like, oh, you do a service without even stepping out the door. They want a certificate for the job. Yeah. But there might be loads of defects, critical recommendations. Might be critical defects, non-critical defects. We've got time processes out of the office before that sheet gets released. Yeah. We want to read what the engineers submitted on their sheet into our office before releasing that to the client. So to make sure the little things like that, everything's covered. Yeah. So we just want to put the engineer at peace of mind, really.
So I think what's also really important is that things are so digital with Uptick and everything else that clients almost expect the report to be given to them on site because they can see that the engineer's on a tablet. But clients need to remember that it's life safety and that needs to be processed properly, and then everything can be delivered in the way it should be. Not everything's not at a touch of a button. Absolutely. That's the crux of all this. Is like we talk about competition between businesses, people trying to win work, people being reluctant to do this and that, but we're all working with the same goal. Yeah. So if we can sort of help, young engineers make the right decisions, but ultimately be trained properly in the right businesses, then we should be in a better position in the future for the industry in general. Definitely. Yeah, absolutely. Okay, do you have any questions for our next guest? Would you have one question for our next guest?
Yeah, I've got one. Yeah, go on. So, obviously the success of the Zeus Training Centre up in Lincoln, have they got plans in the future to open one maybe in the south of the UK?
Lincolnshire sounds fine to me, mate. Don't know about you. So, Lauren, do you have a question for our next guest? Yeah, so if you had your time again, would you still take a career in the fire and security industry? Good question. Very good question. All right, here's one more question. Go on. If you could replace me right now, with anybody in the world, so you could talk to whoever, who would it be? Oh, that's a difficult one. You can keep me. No swap. Yeah, go on. Twist, go on. Oh, that's really dead or alive. Spot. But they can't be dead in the chair. They'd just bring them back to life. Brian Clough. Wouldn't he be great? Nice. Wouldn't he be good?
that's
Have to
tough.
get a Forest mention in there, didn't
He's
I?
defo top one.
Yeah, 100%.
Well, thank you very much for joining us on the Blueprint podcast with Greg and Lauren. You guys have been quality. Really appreciate it. So tune in for the next one. Thank you very much.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Bro, we'll see you again soon.
Take care. See you
See
soon.
you
Face
soon.
of Uptick right there. You'll be seeing him on the brochures again. You'll be seeing him online. Appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Cheers,
Thanks for having us.
thanks.
It's been great.